Hello everyone, welcome back to my Dragon Quest VI walkthrough. We're gonna be using the new Watergate key from Castle Swanstone to visit another town, solve its random problem, and get the ultimate key, which can unlock anything. Since this is a walkthrough before it's a speedrun, we're gonna just spend the entire episode collecting everything we can, even if that's not technically the most efficient. Joining me for that is Skyzo. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hello, YouTube.
Man, that key worked really well on that door, considering it didn't work. Don't you think?
Yeah, pretty much. So, what are you gonna do to find the ultimate key?
Huh?
What are you gonna do to find it? The ultimate key?
We're gonna find it in a random town.
Yeah, but like, how are we gonna find it? Who's gonna give it to us?
You'll see. That's what we call a spoiler.
Oh, I thought it was more of a random quest.
Essentially. Well, actually, that guy's request is that we get out of town, but... You know the old rule about RPGs. When someone asks you to do something, you must therefore go and do it. When they ask you not to do something, you must therefore go and do it.
Sounds about right to me.
Man, that guy moves fast, doesn't he?
He's faster than us, isn't he?
Actually, he moves at the same speed. In the remakes, he moves a little slower so we can get to him easier, but not in this version.
I like to think that the reason he moves so fast is that he's his own character.
Dunno. Also, the conceit there would have been that we followed that really slow guy to the cave. But if you go inside a house before he gets to his destination, he just gets to where he needs to go automatically, so we skipped a few seconds doing that.
That's handy.
And now, Metal Gear.
So, I guess he's sneaking?
Yes, this is a sneaking mission.
What happens if we just talk to the old man?
Random flavor text.
It'd be funny
So
if the mission
basically,
failed.
that guy will turn back every once in a while, and your job is to be underneath a rock column as he does so. Also, what we're doing here is a minor exploit where we go ahead of him slightly. And he's gonna open this passage here, and we can just go inside it without any further trouble. But what's supposed to happen is that it closes before you can get to it, and you have to find this hidden button. So minor exploit, but I want to show you how to do it legit.
Okay, fair enough. Why is there a woman just in the water? What's going on?
Well, Skyzo, there's a certain kind of beautiful mistress that you can find underneath the water. What are these called?
Really, she's a mermaid, but she doesn't have the sprite for it.
Well, that's 'cause her lower half's underneath the water. Just wait till we see more mermaids.
Okay, if you say so.
I do say so. Because I am right. Anyways, what's happening here is that there was this big storm, and this guy was out fishing. And he rescued this mermaid, but He got his arms and legs all smashed up, so he's a cripple right now, which is why he's so slow. Still, his top priority is to get her back to her friends, but his body being all smashed up, we gotta do it for him.
Why didn't he just, go to the medic or something?
Well, it's medieval times. Do you think they can... Well, then again, they have healing spells, and they can bring people back to life.
Do you think that I think that if this world had an economy, you get paid pretty much, just top value for healing people.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. That's, not gonna be able to get that out of my mind now. Also, they have a fling for each other.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Anyways, fortunately, her home is a place that was very close to one of the very first towns. We could have actually met some mermaids before, but they would have just ran away from us. Now, since we have one of their friends, they will be happier to see us.
I like how small we are in comparison.
Another good point. Heck, I think the ship might be smaller than the little kid's bed.
You're right. Giants.
Also, for those wondering about the the dead air, don't you worry, there's gonna be more gameplay soon. It's just... the first part of this episode has some more talky bits. Nothing to be done about that.
Okay. I'm trying to follow this story and what's going on.
Well, they just gave us a mermaid's harp. And when we use that harp, we can go underwater. Got a whole new world ahead of us.
Wait, really? You're serious?
Yup. And prepare for one of my favorite tracks in the game.
Let's hear it.
Well, okay, I'll hear more of it later, but this ship, this is where we get the ultimate key.
Okay. And this game just has everything, doesn't it?
Indeed it does. Also, be sure to get those glass shoes. They lower your agility. Believe it or not, that is actually really important for the Act 2 final boss. You will see why in about... I think it's like 7 episodes from now? 5? 6? Somewhere in that range.
A shoe is important for the final boss.
The Act 2 final boss. That is what the shoe is for. The Act 2.
How would a shoe be helpful?
It lowers your agility.
But, well, I guess you can't really answer about the spoiler, but... I don't see how that would help.
Well... Also, I forgot to mention this last episode, but if you see me check a random bookcase or a random drawer and it turns out there's nothing in it, that's because there are dreamscapes in those locations in the remake. The dreamscapes are sort of a multiplayer thing, and they don't have a functional use for us in the DS remakes. In the iOS and Android remakes, however, you can actually get some collectibles by getting them. Like 6 dreamscapes will get you a new recruitable monster called a Cure Slime, which is... basically, it's a slime that's really good at healing you. And 16 of those gets you a liquid metal slime, which I don't think is that great on its own, so I'm not going to cover it that much. But it also gives you something called a meteorite bracer, which doubles your agility. Whatever agility you have, it's multiplied by 2.
Okay, so you're saying that we'll be doing more episodes of the remake soon?
No, I'm just gonna check random bookcases to tell you, hey, if you check this in the remakes, you will get a dreamscape.
Oh.
Also, we just unlocked the door to the Slimopolis there. Otherwise, it would be barred to us, even with our flying bed. Well, actually, there's another way to get to it, but... okay, so for example, that's where a dreamscape can be found. You get me?
Oh, yeah.
And then... I think... oh, this floating island that we got, we'll go back inside here, rest up with a not free inn, but a very cheap inn, and we're gonna unlock some doors that give some other really good equipment, including something called the Hela's armor, or the demon armor. That cuts your agility down to 0, but in exchange, it has some really strong resistances on it, and a fairly high defensive value. That is also going to be one of the most important items in the game. Make sure you get it, if you're following along with me.
Is the armor better than the platinum armor?
No, it just has its uses.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like the glass shoes, which lower your agility, and the demon armor, which cuts it down to 0. There are ways of making those useful. Like, there are actually some things you can do by always going last before your enemy that you can't do if you only sometimes go last before your enemy. For strategy purposes, you always want to go either 100% before them or 0% before them. You know what I mean?
I do. And it's interesting that this game, like, instead of having a base speed that's fixed, it's more of a range value, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also gonna visit the Slimopolis here. This is another spot where I really regret not getting the Slime Knight earlier. For now, all I can do is show you a place where we could have gotten 2 more mini medals. But had we actually gotten the guy, we could have gotten the mini medals. Because if you enter this place with only the slime in your party, you can fit in through that tiny hole and get some hidden treasures. We could not.
Well, I wonder if we're gonna cover this in, like, a future episode. Probably are, right?
Yeah, it's part of 100% after all. Oh, that NPC. Ugh.
And that's just a classic.
I could have edited that out with the tassing tools, but that was too hilarious to not show off.
Well, this doesn't happen often.
Doesn't happen often, but when it does, oh boy.
So, when you mention agility and how you can get it to 0, how much does it affect you in battle? Are you hindered by it? Because it doesn't sound like you are.
It depends on how you use it and how you plan around it. Most casual players would be hindered by it. I, however, know the uses of going last instead of first. Like, for example, there's something in this game called a Sage's Stone. It heals your entire party when you use it as an item for, I think, around... Oh, by the way, you remember that maid that was sold into slavery? No, wait, no you don't. That was Dark Knight 97. But yeah, if you come here all the way later, you'll find she got rescued. Game doesn't make you go back there, but if you diligently recheck towns, you can find little events like that.
So is that like an Easter egg?
I guess. Or maybe a resolved side plot that, you know, if you just play through the game, it never gets resolved, but if you revisit towns after certain plot triggers, you'll find that some problems have resolved themselves. NPC dialogue updates.
That's surprisingly, impressive for the time.
Can't imagine how much time they spend putting in stuff like that.
It's also worth noting that those kinds of events, I don't see a regular player actually bothering to check, but maybe that's just me.
A regular player wouldn't. You'd have to be diligent in order to find all these little details, which is part of what makes the game great, in my opinion.
And yet, they put it in anyway, so that is not something you see often.
Yup. Oh, by the way, that was the monster that Terry beat up all the way in episode 10. It regenerated.
That's a long time ago, it feels like.
Well... I had something witty to say, but I forgot.
Okay, well...
Let me ask if you've noticed. Have you noticed that we've been revisiting a lot of old places?
Yeah, I have actually. Especially now that you mention it, I intended to comment on it, but I didn't want to seem like I wasn't enjoying it.
No. These are places you'd forget about after a certain length of time. They always had these jail cell-like doors that we couldn't unlock before. But now that we have the ultimate key, we can.
Okay, that's... I guess it's nifty.
It is nifty. Also, in this location, there is no bookcase here, but there is a bookcase in the remakes. That's where you can get another dreamscape. And I'll keep a running tally of the dreamscapes you should have by now if you're playing along in the remakes.
Also, wasn't that the same room that we fought the last boss in?
Oh yeah, they reused some assets, didn't they?
I was gonna say that maybe that was the same house, but this one's underwater, so not really.
Also, there's an undersea inn here. How do they do that?
Well, I mean, probably mermaids, right?
I suppose. Maybe they have a harp too.
Well, mermaids can transform, can't they? So, maybe that's what they do.
Yeah, they can also breathe in air too.
So yeah, there we go.
Wow, they can go to a lot of places now that I think about it.
Although, would a mermaid be able to transform to a man?
I feel like that's covered in one of the party chats in the remakes. I think one of them's like, wait a minute, where are all the mermen? How do new mermaids come into this world?
Yeah, I mentioned that because the innkeeper is a man, and how would he get down there? Suspension of disbelief.
Hey, Skyzo, guess what's
Yeah?
in here?
I'm not sure. What is it?
It is a Mega Monkey Bracer! Or just a Kerplunk Bracer or a Give Life armband. But regardless, if someone is wearing it and they die, everyone else in the party gets healed up to 100%. Even if they're dead.
That's pretty good. Like, wouldn't you get... I feel like there was an item in the casino, in the remake. I'm not sure if it's both games, but it's like an item that revives you, right? Makes you invincible, pretty much.
Yeah, I think I covered that in the bonus episode. That's where you remember that from.
Yes, it's essentially that, but you can find it in the base game.
Yeah, but only one of them. You can buy more from the casinos, but they cost like 20,000 coins apiece, so it is just not practical getting them.
So this would be meant for the final boss, I'd imagine.
Both the final boss and the post-game boss, if you're playing Super Nintendo. In the remake said it'd only be for the post-game boss, unless you just can't help it. Also, in case you're wondering why I'm stalling, that's so you can hear the rest of the music.
Well, the music's pretty good.
Oh boy, this castle. This frickin' castle. So, you know how this game's story isn't afraid to punch you in the gut every once in a while?
Yeah?
You know how there are some dark themes covered in this game sometimes?
I do, actually. So, what happens?
No, I really don't want to cover it this episode, but, I'm gonna actually cover this in a bonus episode. It involves Millie, but let's just say it's like you take all the darkness in the game, you cram it into one moment, and then you ratchet it up to 11. And then the game just sort of expects you to move on with your adventure like nothing happened. That is essentially what happens here if you talk to all the NPCs. It is gonna get its own bonus episode, and you can share your thoughts as to what you think.
Really? That's... like, all you have to do is talk to all of them, and you get the message?
Yeah, just talk to all the NPCs. This town was called Felonia in the remakes. Like, you put felon, and you add an ia to it. It is a fitting name.
So, would that be felony?
Yep. Actually, is that how it's pronounced? I always called it Felonia, but can you pronounce an IA as felony?
Well, I don't know. I guess if you're stretching the imagination, you could.
Felonia? Felonia.
Well, I see it as more of a play on words, like just something that you don't often think about. When you do, you can't really forget about it.
Also, if you're playing along with me, make sure you don't check any of the other pots in that jail cell besides the one with the small medal, because it has a trap monster. It's called the Earn Expected. An Earn Expected Surprise. And it's kind of tough.
So, is that the mimic of this game?
It's one of them. There are 3 different mimic monsters in this game. 5 if you include the well monsters.
Wait, you mean the well demons? Like, those big red guys?
Yeah, the well demons.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't think they were mimics.
That's why I say if you count them. Because basically what happens is you check a well and then suddenly you're attacked by one of them. So I thought it kind of counted in the same category. But it wasn't like a chest, though.
Well, I mean, I guess as long as you have a container and you have a monster inside of it that's waiting, I mean, it's the same ambush behavior, so I would count it.
Ah. And now, to finish off this episode, we're gonna check out some uber strong gear. Well, maybe not uber, but it's pretty strong gear. And we're not gonna buy any of them, but if you were like fighting random encounters, you would have more money than I would. The dragon mail reduces fire breath damage. The water flying clothes, or flowing dress, resists basically everything under the sun, and this Helm of Wisdom is a really strong headpiece that also slightly increases your resistance to status spells. And the Slime Helm is something that is for characters. Have a nice